All right, hello. This is my 2020 Joe Biden versus Donald Trump debate prediction. Just recently, I released my September 2020 electoral college prediction, and I'm going to be trying to predict what's going to happen in the debates, which are coming up just on Tuesday, on the 29th of September, and then there's some following ones, the vice presidential one, and then the two other presidential ones coming up in October. I'm also going to talk about what I think is going to happen regarding an October bump or a 2-week bump or whatever you want to call it, which is basically something you see in previous electoral national elections when in the 2 weeks before the election you see one candidate have a bit of a rise in the polls. It happened to Trump in 2016, as you can see. I'll show you right here. In October, halfway through October or so, you see Clinton up by about 6.7, but by the end, she was only up by 3.2, and she even got as low as 1.7 at one point. And I'm going to talk about if that's going to happen again, and will the debates affect that and whatnot. So yeah, let's get into it. So to start things off, I want to talk about the debate, and more specifically, I want to set up the circumstances and the characteristics of this debate and what we have to know going into it. So the first thing you should understand with, I think everyone should understand with these debates is, unlike debates in 20 years ago or 30 years ago, or even like in the early 2000s, the United States has become extremely polarized in comparison to back then. Right now, there is an extreme partisan divide when it comes to liking a candidate or not liking a candidate, and you are not going to get your mind changed. Like it's for both sides, Democrats and Republicans, and yeah, that's just how it is. And realistically, there's about I'd say on the one hand, there's probably around a 35 to 40%. I'll say 35%. Who are kind of in love with Trump. Realistically, if Trump murdered someone, they'd still like him. These people are never going to get, quote unquote, like deconverted from being like Donald Trump supporters. They will support him no matter what. They'll watch this debate and their minds won't be changed. As for Biden, you have about, I think it's around a 43% chance. And I'm basing these numbers off of general polls where they say they strongly favored these people. And of course, this isn't really good, very scaled very well, but I hope you get the point. About 43%. And these people aren't necessarily pro-Biden, but what they are is they despise Trump. And no one is going to convince them that somehow Trump is better than what they hear on the news or whatever. They just think he's evil, pretty much, or they think he's really destructive towards the country. And yeah, so realistically, you are looking at about a 22% group of voters, and of course, some of them are more leaning towards Trump, some of them are more leaning towards Biden. And realistically, these people aren't saying, do I want to vote for Trump? I like some of Trump's policies, but I'm going to vote for Biden. I like some of Biden's policies. No one is saying that on earth. Pretty much the reason these people are in this 22% is they think Trump and Biden are really bad. And that's just kind of the situation. There isn't that many people who are wandering around saying, oh, wow, I actually really like Biden's policies over Trump's. Like, no, you're just going to vote for Biden because he's not Trump. So this is who these candidates and this debate should be applying to. And you have to keep this in mind when you're watching the debate and when you're predicting stuff about the debate. It's not about this 35%. It's not about this 43%. And the key will be this group of people. And last time in 2016, this group of people, it was the same situation, Clinton and Trump. A lot of these people said, well, you know what? I'm gonna put my money on, I'm gonna take a risk, so to speak. I don't like Trump, but I'm gonna vote for him over Clinton. And it worked out for Trump, and he won. And there's lots of reasons behind that. I won't get into them. That's not what this video is about. But the point is, This is who we're appealing to. And you have to remember, what are these people thinking? Well, they are thinking this. They're thinking Trump and Biden are bad. So what is Trump going to be thinking going to this debate? What is Biden going to be thinking going into this debate? Well, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to prove that this assumption about them, Trump is bad, Biden is bad, is wrong. They're not going to really do it by saying, oh, the other person is as bad as you think. They're going to have to have true success, they're going to have to show these people otherwise. So I'll explain what that looks like. So first of all, we have to figure out, why do these people not like Trump? Why do these people not like Biden? So for Trump, it's quite simple why people don't like him. Many people think he's very xenophobic, very sexist, very racist. He's too neoconservative. He's very loud. He's very vulgar. And he's just, this really unorthodox president who acts like a toddler sometimes. That's what they don't like about him. So in one word, you could say he's like insane, basically. That's what people think about him. I'm not necessarily saying he is insane, but the reason people wouldn't like Trump is probably because he has such explosive and really radical personality and policies where they're like, sorry, he's too out there for me. Now for Biden, why don't these people like Biden? Well, it's really simple. He's a senile old man. That's the end of the story. He is an old man, and he cannot put his thoughts together. I'm not saying that he is this. I'm just saying this is the assumption they have about him that's preventing most people from voting for him. Now, obviously, there's some of them that are like, oh, I might disagree with Biden on some policy or Trump on some policy, but realistically, if these candidates can overcome these stereotypes of them, and of course, in a debate, that's where you show off these personal characteristics, right? This is where that they have the opportunity to really pull that 22% over to one side or the other.
Also, the majority of normal Americans don't really pay a huge amount of attention to policy and often judge candidates more on their personal characteristics.
So, now we know what's at stake here and what the candidates are trying to achieve in this debate. Let's talk about now how they're going to do it. Okay, so I've put up two Biden and Trump here to explain each of these candidates' strategies and what I believe they're going to do going into this debate, knowing that information that we just talked about. So, first thing, Biden. Biden is really easy to predict what he's going to do because he does the same thing in every debate for his whole life. I've watched all Democratic debates. I watched Biden versus Palin, Biden versus Ryan. I've seen him talk, since the Triassic period. He's been around for a long time, and he has this same strategy. Basically, one of the appeals to Biden, and one of the reasons he probably won the primary, is he comes off as, he's going to do this thing where he comes off as very friendly, very he's always smiling. He's not always fully there, but you get the feeling that he is kind of relatable. He's Uncle Joe or Grandpa Joe, or whatever you want to call him. And this is something that Hillary Clinton really lacked, because Clinton was like your creepy aunt who you would avoid in the grocery store if you saw her. Whereas Biden is like your grandpa who you see on spring break and goes to bed at 8 p.m. He has this kind of emotional resonance with him that Clinton didn't have, where she was like this cold, very policy-driven and extremely unrelatable person. I remember there's this picture of her going into a working class home. Maybe I'll edit it in right there. How about if I can find it? And it's just a perfect representation of how unrelatable she was. Versus Biden, he wants to come across as very friendly, very personable, and I think he actually can, because in the past, he's come across as just like Scranton Joe. He's from a small town or whatever. He's been a senator for a while, and he doesn't have an Ivy League degree, for instance. So I think that's what I'm fairly certain that's what he will do. I'll call this just F for friendly. I don't know. And I think that's his strategy going in here. Now, on the other hand, we have Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has two options. And he probably knows what Biden's going to go into this debate with, this friendly option here. But Trump has two paths, so to speak, or at least a spectrum of one path being over here, one path being you go somewhere in the middle. The first one, already here, is, I'm going to call it GB for guns blazing. This is 2015, 2016 Donald Trump. He is loud. He is a rock thrower. He is going like full roasting mode on Joe Biden. And he's just letting loose. And this would fit in with his campaign. He's constantly calling Biden a socialist and a radical sympathizer and supporter of looters and rioters and stuff. Like, that's what his campaign's done, so there's a chance that he goes in and does that. Like, which I'll talk about if it works or not in a moment. But that's his first strategy, and that's what he's good at. So maybe he was thinking, okay, I'll do that. Second option is he goes in a bit more reserved. He goes in talking about policy. He holds himself back. He doesn't go on the offensive here, or he does, but not in such a loud and boisterous way. He really just talks about, maybe actual policy. So, which would be a shock, but yeah. So, how would this friendly Joe Biden compare to these two Trumps? Well, here's the first thing. The Trump that is very loud and boisterous, he is not going to do well against a friendly friendly Biden, in my opinion. And here's the reason why. If Joe Biden, you have to remember, what are these two candidates trying to prove? Joe Biden is going to come across as friendly and policy driven and talking about, Trump's going to call him a looter, or like not a looter, but a sympathizer of these people. He's going to, you're going to take away the guns and the police and blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden's like, no, I'm not. I'm just a normal dude who's running on a very moderate platform. And like, obviously you're lying. And the American people will be like, obviously, or this 22%, I should say, is going to be like, obviously Trump's crazy. So what just happened? If he adopts this strategy, that strategy will cause Trump to fit into the stereotype of people not liking him, and it will bring Biden out of the stereotype of people not liking him. This will be a win for Biden. So if he does this, Biden will see a rise in the polls. This is not a good strategy for Donald Trump. So what about the other one? What about the reserved strategy? Well, this one would actually work better in my opinion, because suddenly you can actually let Joe Biden start speaking. Because the more Trump speaks, the less Joe Biden speaks. And the more Joe Biden speaks, the more people realize that he is a senile old man. In small doses, Joe Biden is very friendly and very policy driven and very normal. But when you start getting him to talk for, I guess if the debate's 90 minutes, it'll be 45 minutes of Joe Biden, so to speak. That's when people are like, he's going to start making mistakes. He's going to have gaffes. He's going to, just like start looking like an idiot. And Trump is going to be very reserved. Now, although this will damage Joe Biden, I think this will also damage Trump, because something like 55% of Americans think that Trump is going to win the debate, because they remember in 2016 he kind of schooled Clinton, and that 22%, or the 22% plus that 35% of Trump supporters equals, guess what, around 55%. So all that 22% of people are going to be having this predetermined view of what they think is going to happen in the election or in the debate. And if Trump decides to take this reserved strategy, well, what's going to happen? But their expectations are going to be let down, and therefore people will come out of the debate thinking, Trump didn't do great against Biden, and if Trump didn't do great against Biden when I was expecting him to, maybe Biden's better than I thought. So you have kind of conflicting ones for this, and in my opinion, this would be a Trump-Biden tie, so to speak. Nothing would really change. It wouldn't be talked about very much. Biden would get a little bit of attention, Trump would get a little bit of attention. But realistically, it wouldn't change too much in the polls. That 22% would be like, meh, whatever. I saw Biden do some dumb stuff, kind of fit into my stereotype. I saw Trump fit into or not live up to my expectations of him, so to speak. The point is, you would see Trump and Biden kind of staying in the same place in the polls. And that's bad news for Trump, because Trump's losing. And I think that in either situation, Trump's going to come out really badly. If Trump wants to win, he's got to somehow lead Joe Biden into some really devastating trap where those people that are in the 22% say, okay, actually Trump is, like more competent than I thought, and Biden is like so far gone I could never vote for him. So yeah, that's kind of the situation of the debate. I think Biden will come out either on top or kind of tying it, which for Biden is a win. And yeah, I think that'll be what happens. Hopefully I'm right. We'll see. And I'll hopefully talk about the October bump soon, but my camera battery is dying, I see. So I'm going to pause the video here, or maybe end it if I end it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!